here to deliver the eulogy for my mother-in-law. That sounds like a setup to a joke. There's no punchline, which is too bad, because Jane loved a good joke. When she heard one, she couldn't wait to tell you. And that's probably why, when I think of Jane, she's always laughing or smiling. I first met Jane a week before I married her daughter. I was pretty intimidated. It didn't help that Julie's father was a colonel, and I was a lieutenant, so to me that was pretty close to a deity. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I wouldn't have been all surprised if she'd been skeptical or aloof. But right off the bat, she made me feel like one of her own kids. Wayne was the nicest guy, but it took me about 10 years before I could bring myself to call him by his first name. But Jane was Jane from the very start. We all know that Jane was a steadfast Army wife, devoted mother, and talented performer and director. But I missed all that. I met her as her life in the Army was ending. Her children were all grown, and her days singing for audiences were drawing to a close. I only got to hear Jane sing a few times, but that was enough to know that she had a God-given talent. But as I got to know her, I realized that her real talent was building families. She started young, a mother with a husband still in college, raising 3 boys on a second lieutenant's pay, left at home for a year with a house full of children while Wayne was in Vietnam or Korea. It must have been hard. I have it on good authority that her 4 boys were holy terrors. Thankfully, her daughter was a little angel. Those were the olden days, before email and cell phones and Skype, when she was really on her own. But in spite of the many challenges, she did a great job. Her sons grew up to be men of character, the kind of men you can count on when things are tough. Their lives were made into movies. They'd be played by Gary Cooper. And I think I'm completely objective here, her daughter turned out even better. Most importantly, I know that her house was always a house full of love, because that's what I saw after I became a part of the family. When my kids were small, they loved visiting Grandma Jane's. I think they lived in the pool. And there were always other cousins in the pool with them, along with Papa Wayne and Grandma Jane. Grandma Jane's house and pool was always filled with the sound of children's laughter. And it wasn't just relatives. Their house was always full of friends. Army life is full of young, lonely soldiers on isolated posts. And Jane played surrogate big sister or mom more than she could count. But that didn't end when she retired. When Julie and I were first married, every time we came to Wilmington, I was introduced to friends from the Sailing Association or the theater department or other activities who would drop by the house. And I quickly realized that these people weren't friends. They were extended family. Jane was a talented singer, but what made her special was her ability to make other people feel special. Jane's family was very large, but it always had room for one more. Often when someone dies, the only connection the people at her funeral have is that they each knew the deceased. But that's not the case with Jane. We all knew and loved Jane, but she made sure that we all got to know and love each other. The other thing that I remember about Jane was her relationship with Wayne. It was always Wayne and Jane. They even named their boat Wayne and Jane's World. And for them it was Wayne and Jane's World. They were high school sweethearts, wed in college, and married 56 years. I've never seen a couple more in love. For them, every day was like a first date and honeymoon rolled into one, even if they were just doing chores around the house. Sometimes we think a great romance has to be doomed or tragic, like Tom and Maria in West Side Story. But Jane and Wayne showed that fairy tales can come true. In their story, the prince and princess do indeed live happily ever after.
Ann and I are going to be reading some messages that have come in from out of town as well as our own reflections. So this one comes from Mary Hanson, daughter-in-law. She says, "How very lucky I was in becoming a member of the Hanson family. Jane, you were first member of the Mrs. Hanson Club to take me under your wing and mentor me as a young newlywed and eventually mom. You were always ready for a chat, adventure, and especially a shopping trip. Your impact on this side was noble and full of accomplishments. We will continue to remember and cherish all the things that made you, Jane, a very special person.
From Joe Yusufali, my heartfelt condolences on Jane's passing. May your grief be eased by the memory of her beautiful music.
This one is from Kathy, Jason, and Jordan Steerwall. Dear Hanson family, how very lucky are we to have met such a spunky, lively lady. She was a talented actress and singer, and we feel sure she is a feisty angel. Our 5-year-old daughter, who saw her recently, said, "Wow, she's an angel. That's so awesome."
From Jeff Aldrich, Jane and I met performing in Annie at UNCW back in the early 80s, and that was the beginning of a long and wonderful friendship. Soon after, I met Wayne at a cast party playing a wash bucket bass. You just don't find better friends than that. The tremendous fun we had and the stories we will share, such as sleepless nights, will be with me always. I am blessed with some very wonderful memories of our times together. Jane's and your friendship has been such a gift, and her light and her joy will be truly missed.
This one's from Jack and Marcia Baumgart. A great lady. We will miss her very much. Perhaps she will be that angel who whispers in our ear when we need direction and suffer confusion. That would be nice.
From Mark Costanzo, Jesus just added one beautiful singer to his choir, truly a blessed woman with an anointed voice. I am sad all this is happening, but the Lord promises that his joy comes at the end.
Pete and Judy Weimer. One of Judy's favorite stories was the time after the birth of our daughter at Fort Belvoir. Jane told Judy she was taking over care of our son Rob while I was in class. It was just what Judy needed, and it inspired her to do similar things during her Army career.
From Neil and Kat Moeller, may the love of God grant you peace, and the love of friends bring you comfort.
From Ruth and Greg Rogerson. I bet the music is heavenly with its new musical director. A musical celebration indeed.
From Ann and Jason Curtis, granddaughter and her husband. Words cannot express how sorry we are about Grandma. As we start our lives together and embark on the new adventures like you and Grandma did, we cannot imagine life without one another. That is why it must be so incredibly difficult without her here. Now a different journey is ahead, and Jason and I will look forward to being part of it in any way.
Eddie and Cheryl Stoller-Bunn. May it help you to know there are others who sympathize and care, who realize how much you shared, and who hope that in time you will find some comfort in the special memories she left behind. I know she is singing, dancing, and having a wonderful family reunion in heaven.
From Barb Waddell, it is hard to believe that such a vibrant and lovely person has left us. You two were always so in tune to each other, caring, and so in love. Jane's leaving will leave a great void in her family, but her smile, laugh, and love will always be there for all of you. Memories keep us going. From Larry and Judy Saunders to Wayne and the Hanson family. One of my few faults, Judy's opinion to the contrary, is that I am not very good at public speaking. We do, however, wish to express our feelings toward you and Jane. Judy and I have known you for about 30 years. During that time, we have shared weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, golfing dates, holidays, and laughs and tears. While our relationship could be described as one of arm's length, it was much closer than that. At this time in our lives and under these circumstances, it's time to reflect on those things most important to us. Those things are people and relationships. Both of you have touched our lives. Jane has touched us with her friendship. Jane has touched us with her wisdom. Jane has touched us with her internal beauty. Jane has touched us with her humor and wit. Jane has touched us with her love. And Jane has touched our hearts. Thanks, Jane. From Leanna Hanson. When I first met Jane in Honolulu She had 3 young sons and carried baby Eric on her hip. Wayne was either in Vietnam or Korea at the time. Dale and I were 15 and dating then and were involved in our own world, so I didn't see Jane often. I knew Jane sang occasionally in Hawaii, and I remember one time sitting in front of the radio with the boys who were trying to pick out when Jane sang. "Is that her? No, that's not her," they would argue. They were cute little boys, and I didn't appreciate Jane's resourcefulness and tenacity at the time as she cared for her children alone while her husband was deployed. Mothers, especially military mothers, just seem to do what needs to be done, no matter what the circumstances. The next time I met Wayne and Jane was several years later when we were stationed in Germany for about a year. It was there that I really got to know Jane and listened to her sing in the various productions at the Army Post. She had such a stage presence and reminded me of Julie Andrews, and what a voice she had. In fact, she played the lead in local productions for Oklahoma and Brigadoon back in the States. Sadly, I never saw those productions as those occurred before she and Wayne were stationed in Germany. It was in Germany that Dale and I really got to know the family, because Dale was only 6 years old when they married, so his adult years with Wayne and Jane were limited until we were stationed together. I remember watching Jane in several local productions and then gathering with them at their home for casting parties. I looked forward to our visits and enjoyed the high-speed trips back and forth from New Ulm to Karlsruhe on the Island. They formed a Petticoat Junction light group and performed in front of 250,000 Berliners before the wall came down. Can you imagine Wayne with his saxophone and wash bucket broomstick bass? What fun that must have been. Fun. That's a word to describe this family, and I'm so happy that I'm part of the clan. I will miss you, Lady Jane. I believe the Heavenly Choir just acquired a new member, and perhaps even a new director. Leader's name. When I began thinking about what I wanted to say about my grandma, I started with specific events that stood out in my mind, like when she and Grandpa stole all of our Halloween chocolate and booked it out of our house at 3 a.m. Or when she and I went through her pictures of Hawaii and compared the places we had visited, all the while making my mom very jealous. But the more I thought, the more I realized that while the specific memories will always be dear to me, it's the life lessons that my grandma taught me that will mean the most to me. Grandma Jane showed me how to stop complaining, face life's challenges head on, get your hands a little dirty, and still exude the grace of a true lady. She also showed me how to get creative if your original plan doesn't work, and how to find the best deal you possibly can. But most of all, she taught me how to make friends feel like family, and how to make any place feel like home, no matter how far away you are from your own home. It has been quite an experience seeing the positive impact my grandma had on the people and the places she encountered throughout her life's adventures, and I hope that I will be able to have the same kind of impact on the world by following my grandma's footsteps.
So I think there was a lot of stories that I can share with you all today about Grandma. And as we've seen with a lot of the stories, I think there's a lot of themes. The word spunky came up. Lots of light, lots of fun, musical, and lots of beauty. And that was just Grandma. And of all the stories I could share, Grandpa reminded me of one last night that I thought I would share with you all today, and I thought it was quite appropriate. Last February, when my brother died, Grandma and Grandpa were the first to come up to a 14-hour trip just to be with us. There's not really much about the week I remember, but I do remember the unconditional comfort and support that Grandma and Grandpa gave us. A couple of days prior to the funeral, I was walking around the house trying to break in some new funeral shoes. They were very cute. 5-inch heels, similar to what they have today, which I was going to be wearing. And at one point, Grandma, she had a little bit of difficulty communicating, but she made it clear that she really loved my shoes. So in true Grandma fashion, at the ripe old age of 75, she put my heels on and totally strutted her stuff around the house. I don't know a lot of 75-year-olds who can do that. As if that wasn't enough, though, she made sure to have a dance with Grandpa in her sexy new heels and give him a big smooch. And as the She was at least 2 inches taller. So we all had a really great laugh, and I was also pretty impressed with her dance moves and those heels. So I guess the whole point of that story is, what it reminds us, as well as a lot of other stories that were said today, is that Grandma had a gift to bring a perky light to any situation, no matter how dark or dire it may feel at the time. So as we celebrate her life today, I hope we can remember to put our heels on and dance a little.
Brothers and sisters to one another. I look at your family and I think of what a great gift you've been given, and a great responsibility, and in turn, what a great gift your parents have given you, and what a great responsibility you have been given. And so now, in the midst of this painful and difficult time, just know that your faith sustains you as it does each one of us. Really only 2 things that I want to talk about for just a few moments. Indeed, Pastor Dan and I together could keep you here all afternoon, I'm sure, but brevity has its place as well. I want to talk to you about the life of a faithful servant. But more importantly, I want to talk to you about the love of a faithful God, a faithful master. When I served as a pastor here, what a privilege it was to have Jane and Wayne come and be a part of our worshiping community. And I remember all those choir rehearsals over here where I always sat next to you, Wayne, because you had a better ear than I did. And so all I had to do was follow Wayne. And we in turn needed to follow Jane. What a gift she was to this congregation. What a blessing. There's not too much I can say about her that your granddaughters haven't already said. You picked out all those unique qualities that are so special, that made her so special for all of us. What I remember most, I guess I could summarize in one sentence. Jane was a woman with a big heart, a big smile, and more importantly, a big love. She loved us all, even when we got off key. I never saw Jane lose her temper, or lose her composition, her self-composure. She never did. She was just a lovely woman who was a gift to us all, and a special gift to you who are family members. I just lost my mother 2 years ago, so I can honestly say I know the feeling, I know the pain, but I also know the grace that comes on the heels of that pain. And it comes through the lives and the actions and the expressions of other people, of each other. As you lean on one another for comfort, you suddenly realize that you've been comforted all along with the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. And so we talk about faith a lot, and we must continue to remember that it is our faith that's going to sustain us and get us to move along in the life that God has still given to us. What a blessing it has been to be back in this church again, but the bigger blessing is to see all of you come together and surround this wonderful family with your support. And that is the source of our faith. The love that we share with one another gives us the kind of understanding of the love that we have from Christ himself. We worship up in Sparta in an Episcopal church. Oh, I've been Episcopalian, I've been Presbyterian, but most of the time I've been a Lutheran. And I think that probably was the connection that Jane and I had. I was so blessed when she came here and began to direct our choir. And here's Christy, who began to play and accompany us in worship. And those were such wonderful days and wonderful memories. And they certainly bring a smile to my face. Who of you here cannot see Jane standing up in front and presenting a solo? She always had that wonderful look, that wonderful smile, that countenance that made you feel good that you came to church. And that was just the way it was with Jane, with your mother, and with your dear spouse. The Episcopal priest that was there when I first attended one time preached at a funeral sermon, and he said this, and I just pass it along. He said, whenever you think of the loved one that has left, you keep them alive in your heart. Jane will be alive in all of our hearts for years to come. And she will continue to inspire us whenever we hear her music and whenever we meet you and whenever we're with you. And I just encourage you as a family, come together frequently. Be together. Be your mother's children, because that is what she would have for you. God bless you and give you the grace to live out your days in the faith she had.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. And thank you to Scotty and Sarah and Ann for sharing some of those great stories. And I'm sure there's many, many more where those come from. And I think one of the neat things when just being around this afternoon as people were gathering, just hearing the laughter, seeing the tears was just such a powerful time, I think, because that's how we do care for each other, right? And share our comfort and our love and sharing God's love with one another. I just had the opportunity and the blessing to meet Wayne and Jane for the first time in January. And when I met them, through my conversations then, and along with some of the conversations, we had when we were preparing for this, when I met with the family last week, and just hearing these stories, I certainly is what brought to mind Psalm 98 that we read, that Bob read earlier. Especially the verse, "Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Break forth in joyous songs and sing praises." And words that certainly fit Jane, certainly. And from what I've heard, music was so much a part of how she lived her life, really. And being part of numerous choirs around the world, and certainly being a part of this choir here at Curie Memorial Lutheran Church for many years. And it was fun last night. Wayne and James stopped by a choir practice last night, and it was just so much fun to see, kind of reminiscing and so kind of renewal of old friendships, which was certainly a delight. And I was thinking of the words from Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans, where he writes, "We have different gifts according to the grace given to us." And among those many gifts, certainly, that Jane had was her gift of music, no doubt. One that she shared willingly and with much enthusiasm. But I also had learned last week of another gift that she had. I learned about the gift that she had this amazing gift and this uncanny ability to draw out the hidden musical talents of other people, even if it meant she had to negotiate. As Wayne told me that in an effort to get him to sing in the church choir, she had to make a deal with him. And that deal was that if he promised to sing in the church choir, she would learn to play golf. Did she do it well?
She did.
She did it well.
She could drive, but she couldn't putt.
We all have our limitations. I also understand one of those gifts, and it was shared earlier, that she had was being a great mother, a great wife, a great grandmother, and a great friend. Raising, and certainly that gift of being a role model as a military wife, Julie was talking about. And raising 5 children, moving 19 times over the course of 30 years to many places around the world, even taking her children camping, and even pulling a trailer while they went camping when Wayne was often, serving our country honorably, and sometimes some undisclosed locations that even Jane was not able to know about. And what a challenge that must have been. But certainly, as we talk about friendships and family and the love that was shared, that certainly made it possible for them.